Two surprising ride changes to talk about today, including one in both sprint cars and late models. Plus, we'll talk more high limit franchise stuff and their plans to try and draw more big names to the series. Let's go. It's Tuesday, November 18th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. If you like to play those pick'em pools or participate in Dirt Draft or maybe bet some USAC or High Limit or the Outlaws, or maybe you're just a stat nerd like me, check out the analytics section at DIRTRACKR.com. We track both World of Outlaws series, Lucas, High Limit, USAC, the Chili Bowl, Eldora late models, Extreme Outlaw midgets, and more. The database is well north of, I think, 2,500 races at this point. There's results, there's stats, there's analysis. In there, you can find a ton of information for free, including full race results and driver pages, their stat breakdowns. But if you want access to even more, grab a subscription to DIRTRACKR Plus, $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. The year basically gets you 2 months for free, and you can cancel anytime, super easy. Signing up gets you access to the Plus dashboard, which has added stat tools and visualizations. You get 25 extra features that you're not going to find anywhere else. Whether you're a race fan, a member of the media, or you work for a series or a track, DIRTRACKR Plus is the perfect resource. You can see everything Plus has to offer and sign up for a subscription over at DIRTRACKR.com/GetPlus. When I talked about the Billy Hicks racing situation on the show yesterday, I certainly didn't expect to be talking about it today and have it be resolved so quickly. And I certainly didn't expect the driver they made a deal with. And it sounds like maybe people in the industry didn't see it coming either. If you haven't been keeping up, the Billy Hicks 79 Dirt Late Model Team and 2025 Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series Rookie of the Year, Donald McIntosh, parted ways after the finale at Eldora. McIntosh still on the hunt for a new deal, and it sounds like Hicks has had deals in place now with multiple drivers before finally announcing things today. I was told a deal was in place before World Finals for one driver, but they backed out of that deal to try to get Cody Overton. Overton was on the hunt for a ride with the Stein team supposedly closing up shop. Overton and Hicks were supposed to get started this past weekend, but the deal ended before it even started. The 79 didn't race, and then Overton was back in the 2-car for Stein. Suddenly today, though, Hicks has a new driver, and it's not one that I or apparently anyone else expected. But for 2026, Cory Hedgecock will be a full-time Lucas driver in the Hicks machine. Hedgecock will run the 79 with Lucas in some select other shows as well, and he's going to fill in with his own car wherever else he wants. On the show yesterday, I told you I'd heard maybe Cade Lowdy or Will Harrington, and Flow Racing's Kyle McFadden tweeted that Hedgecock told him back around World Finals that he was actually scaling back. In an article posted November 5th, Hedgecock said, quote, "I think we're going to end up dialing back. Honestly, I don't think I can personally as a dad. I cannot do a World of Outlaws or Lucas deal with my personal life now. I'm recently divorced and it shook me to my core, and it's just a juggling act for me I ain't got figured out yet. And I care more about them kids that I burn this stuff to the ground," unquote. Dialing back to then signing up for a full Lucas run is quite the shift in just 2 weeks' time. Hedgecock has never previously run an entire national tour and is winless with Lucas. He does have 2 outlaw scores on his resume. The Hicks team with McIntosh had 1 top 5 and 11 top 10s in 2025 en route to a 10th place points finish. Hedgecock recently picked up a Longhorn chassis for his family-owned team and has had some success in it. And maybe he can continue that with Hicks, who also runs Longhorns. Definitely a surprising move, though, and we'll see what they can get done with Lucas next year. With this deal now settled, that leaves us waiting to hear about McIntosh, obviously Dalton Wilson, JCM Motorsports, and maybe Cody Overton. I've heard some interesting rumblings as well about Chris Madden, so we'll see if anything pops up with him. On the Sprint Car Silly Season side, Hank Davis has a new deal. He'll tackle 2026 behind the wheel of the Michael Dutcher-owned 17 GP. That car was driven this past season by Tim Schafer. Davis had won 3 races towards the end of the season in the Beaver Racing 12X, including once with POWRi, and he swept the Short Track Nationals weekend at Texarkana 67. It sounds like Beaver thought they had a deal with Davis for next year, but back on Friday, both sides announced they'd split. Beaver shared to Facebook, quote, "We believe we had plans for next year settled. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. Beaver Racing has parted ways with Hank Davis Racing. Stay tuned for the details of Beaver Racing for the upcoming season," unquote. Davis has made just 34 career 410 sprint car starts with 3 wins, 9 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. This is a bit of a reunion of sorts for Davis and Dutcher, who actually raced together at World Finals at the end of 2024. Besides Beaver not knowing their plans, this is also, now leaves Tim Schafer's next step up in the air. He won 4 times in 60 starts in 2025, including twice at Lernerville, plus with the All-Stars at Bloomington and the IRA at Angel Park. Not an earth-shattering move here, but curious given Davis' recent runs with Beaver, and I hadn't heard that Dutcher was even in the market for a new driver. I'd assume a similar schedule will be in the cards next year for this team, including regional starts with series like Power Eye and the IRA, plus scattered national tour appearances. We'll see Davis as well at the Chili Bowl in January. Moving on, we talked last Thursday about the future of the high limit franchise system, with the Sprint Car Series announcing who's getting what payouts for 2026. And we speculated on the sale price for the Jason Myers franchise, and we talked about the path to a franchise for any future new teams. As I and others have talked about, you have to think a team like the Jason Johnson Racing 41 with driver Carson Macedo has to be high on Brad Sweet's wish list for 2026. They're the one top-level outlaw team that feels like they could possibly be convinced to flip. That non-franchise team compensation was talked about kind of on a higher level in last week's release, but now we know way more details on exactly what it will look like for teams who join up for 2026. And before we dive in, something to consider here is all teams that don't have a franchise at this point, they're all back to square one. So that means Chase Randall, Cy Lynch, Danny Sams, they have no advantage for running high limit this past season in the path to get a franchise. And that path for the 2028 season, it's completely spelled out now, and everything is starting at even. As a quick recap, to get one of those future franchises, teams must have perfect attendance in 2026 and 2027 with high limit, and either finish in the top 3 in the high limit standings one season or the top 8 in both seasons. Given the field that High Limit has assembled going forward, that's not going to be an easy task. Starting next year, High Limit will support up to 8 non-franchise teams as full-time members, and they'll be competing for effectively a point fund of up to $1.215 million. They're calling this the Joker Fund, and they have a whole thing about cards, but don't get lost in those details. Teams in this situation could earn as much as $350,000 if they win the High Limit title, or as little as $50,000. It's a bit of a sliding scale and depends on where you finish in points and how you do against the other non-franchise teams. And the entire setup looks like this. You see the max values for each team that are possible in the middle column, and then the necessary performances to earn the money in the right column. It is possible that a non-franchise team could earn more than a franchise team, but it will take a good run all season. And the way things are spelled out here, this money will be paid out kind of in similar fashion to what the Outlaws pay out and what High Limit paid out last year, where teams will get tow money through the season and then kind of a chunk of the rest of that money at the end of the season, more like a traditional point fund. And these numbers, they're similar kind of to what the Outlaws paid in 2025 to their top 10 points finishers. And obviously, if you finish higher, you can make more than some of the Outlaw teams, but where we're probably looking at some of these teams finishing, it's probably going to be more similar. And the way this looks to me is this is High Limit's attempt to draw in big teams for future franchise membership. You can still go this direction for the next 2 years and make very good money before you get one of those guaranteed franchises for 2028. Meaning you certainly wouldn't do worse over here without a franchise versus an outlaw run. Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson, and the Flow Racing Brain Trust are hoping to lure in more stars. There's no doubt about it. And that could literally mean anyone from David Gravel to Buddy Kofoid, Carson Macedo, Logan Schuchart, or maybe even a guy like Anthony Macri. To be fair, though, of that group, I think only Macedo might join. And I say might here in all caps. I don't see Gravel, Kofoid, or Schuchart flipping, and I don't see a near future where Macri is on a tour. But High Limit has thrown their cards down. See what I did there? And they're doing that in hopes of a big pickup. And I say that because of the way this money is laid out and the requirements for a future franchise. There are not many teams here that would be capable of joining for 2026 that could finish in the top 8 both of the next 2 seasons. I think Chase Randall, Danny Sams, Cy Lynch, those guys that were full-time this year that didn't earn a franchise, they're facing very long odds, as would any regional kind of teams that jump up into this spot. Those teams could still make good money as non-franchise runners, but the path to a future franchise is going to be difficult. This is the lure for more of those top-level guys. On a side note here, I don't understand why so many view this whole thing as so complicated. Leave the cards and the gambling references out of it. It's actually a pretty simple setup. I keep seeing questions like, where is all this money coming from? Well, it's coming from high limit streaming revenue from Flow Racing. They kind of said that from the start. That's not hard to understand. I saw something today where a commenter was liking this to debt, that somehow High Limit is paying out this year's point fund on next year's earnings. That is completely not true, and it's completely nonsensical. High Limit paid a point fund for 2025. Those teams got those checks. The dollar amounts that they shared last Thursday are effectively 2026's point fund. It's just that the teams know in advance what they're getting, and that money will be split up over the year versus one big payment at the end. The point fund, for lack of a better term, is decided before the season even starts based on the two previous years' results averaged together. It's very similar to how things are handled in NASCAR. And they're doing this so teams can plan for what they've got coming in terms of revenue. And then that 2-year window, it's going to slide and change things for each year. 2026 is based on 2025 and 2024. 2027 will be based on 2025 and 2026, and so on and so forth. It's a very different setup than we've ever seen in dirt racing, and we won't really know if it works or not for several years. At the end of the day, though, High Limit will still show up and put on sprint car races next year. If you don't care about any of this, don't worry, it won't matter. Sprint cars will still be racing for trophies and big checks. You can still watch on Flow and buy tickets. None of those things change. Speaking of things changing, they're changing out in USAC, or changing out in California for USAC. We know the midgets aren't racing tomorrow at Plaza Park because of all the rain they've had there recently, and now we've lost Friday as well. The Tulare Thunderbolt announcing here just a bit ago that November 21st, that racing is canceled. USAC, though, yet to make the announcement on their end as I wrote this today. With Plaza Park and Tulare off, that leaves us with just 3 more USAC midget races this season. That includes Saturday at Merced, November 25th at Kern, and November 29th at Ventura. That's the Daily Show for today. Thanks for stopping by for a few minutes to hang out and get caught up on dirt racing stuff. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday out there and a great Wednesday as well, but we'll see you back here tomorrow.